right, guys, Ms. Parnell here with the last installment of the notes for psychological disorders, in which I pause and you get to write with me. So this is section 5, dissociative personality and eating disorders. Some random disorders kind of all thrown into one unit, one module, or one part of the unit, one module. So it's kind of weird, but a little disjointed, but stick with me. So they're the crash course on the schizophrenia page, did schizophrenia and dissociative. And dissociative, as you see, will be the first one to talk about. Watch that if you haven't. And then you got a crash course on personality disorders and a crash course on eating disorders. So there's 3 listed here, and there are 3 separate videos. So make sure you watch those, pause this, go watch those, then come back and take notes if you need to. All right, so let's get into dissociative disorders. So if you associate, you're together, like things that associate go together. So if you disassociate, it's apart. So dissociative disorders are when your life kind of comes apart, for lack of a better word. The main 2 we're going to talk about are something called fugue and DID. DID stands for dissociative identity disorder, and it used to be called multiple personality disorder. Multiple personality does a much better job of describing in the name what we're talking about, because we're talking about somebody with a lot of personalities. So dissociative disorders, write down this definition. They are controversial. You're going to see why. A lot of people argue, even psychologists, plenty of people in the psychological medical field even say, are you sure? This just doesn't sound on the up and up or 100% right, because as you're going to see with fugue, you just forget your life. You just forget your life and make a new one. And people are like, what? Like, give me a break. Like, there's no way. You just forgot everything. And dissociative with the multiple personalities, people are like, what do you mean you're really all these different people, and these different people live inside of you and they don't know you and you don't know which one's the real you? Like, it just doesn't sometimes sound like it adds up. But I mean, there's plenty of cases and evidence and stuff to support and back it, but it is controversial because not everyone is in agreement. And you're going to probably form your own opinions on this when we go through it. Like, is that real? But according to all this, they really are. So controversial. They're rare, thank goodness, because they are so controversial. It would not be good if there was tons of cases of these. Rare disorders in which conscious awareness, so you know conscious awareness, go back to like unit 2, or consciousness and stuff, like being like aware, just being like in it. Conscious awareness becomes separated. That's the word dissociative. That's where dissociative. From whatever was previous to us, our memories, our thoughts, our feelings. From previous memories, thoughts, and feelings. So we've all experienced this on a small scale, right? Like you've done something or something like this is on, or you're in a situation, maybe even the situation we're in right now, especially if you're a senior or something, you're sitting here like, this is unreal. What do you mean I'm not going to have possibly like all these major things in my life, you know, and I'm going to miss out on sports seasons, possibly delay proms or graduations. Like, we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, you'll have all these things. I'm not freaking you out. Just maybe not when you thought you would. And you're sitting here thinking like, what do you mean? Like, this isn't real. And we've all like watched ourselves outside of our body, or watched what's going on outside of our body and felt like disassociated from it. Like you said, like maybe now, but we don't live like that. Like, we can pull ourselves back in, get back into it, get back into reality, stuff like that. At some point we've all even done or said things that weren't ourselves, and you're just like, you know. But dissociation really happens when someone's traumatized, abuse, some type of really strong stressor, trigger, trauma, and they just like literally can't. They can't. So they can't remember that. They can't live there. They can't be a part of that. They can't. So they just have to dissociate. They just have to break off and go be something new. But whereas you think like, well, most of us would just choose that, right? We would just leave. We would go start a new life. But we would remember our old life. We would know what we came from. We would know how we chose to leave. We would know how we chose to leave that. Someone with a dissociative disorder, like, they didn't choose it. It like just happened, pretty much. So here's fugue. You hear the songs? Still Peter Pan. You're wondering what's going on today in the Parnell household. So fugue, all right? So fugue is very controversial. It's a sudden loss of memory. Now, this is not like amnesia or anything we talked about with the brain unit or in the memory unit. Don't confuse it. It's not. This is psychological. It's not medical. There's no injury or anything like that. So sudden loss of memory or change in identity. See. Often in response to an overwhelmingly difficult and stressful situation. So again, that's why it usually comes out of trauma, stress, abuse, stuff like that. The person can be found later in life in a new city with a new name, perhaps a new job, maybe new family, new friends. But here's the kicker. They have no memory of their old life. Now, they know they must have had one because they realize how old they are and, so what was me before this, but they don't remember it. They honestly, someone with fugue would honest to God not remember it. And so that's what makes it the psychological disorder. I'm going to put videos here of 2 news stories with men with fugue. This is for some reason overwhelmingly male guys out there. Don't know why. And then you have DID, dissociative identity disorder. You can still call it multiple personality disorder. I know I do from time to time, but the technical real name is dissociative identity disorder, DID, not DID. I think it'd be funny if they called it DID. And that's how you'll find it in like the DSM and stuff. That's where they've updated it. So dissociative identity disorder. Wow, it took me a long time just to write the title, DID. So it's a rare dissociative disorder. Again, thank goodness it's rare. It's a rare dissociative disorder in which a person exhibits 2 or more distinct and alternating personality. Personalities. There's a really good Law and Order with this. If I can figure out a way to send it to you, it's like on Amazon. I bought it, but I don't know if I'd be able to or not. No, I'll watch it when we get back. Really good on this. I know the movie Split. I think that's the name of it. I've not watched it. It's kind of a newer movie. I think talks about this. One of the most famous horror movies. Oh my gosh, the name just escaped me. It's the one with the Bates Motel, and they made the TV show. You're probably shouting it out to me. From Alfred Hitchcock. Hold on. I gotta Google this. The one that has like the shower scene where it's like and the woman's showering and the guy rips the curtain back and like stabs her and they play that like music that's like synonymous with crazy and horror stories. Hitchcock movie. What is this movie? It shows this. It's like the most famous horror movie. Psycho. That's why. It's the word psycho. We're in psychology, doing psychological disorders, and I couldn't think of it. Yeah, and stuff like that. So, and sometimes they don't do a really good. Sybil was a made-for-TV movie with Sally Field. That's really cool if you want to watch it. Sometimes they don't do a good job of showing it correctly because they try and make it more dramatic and stuff. But basically, it's just this having those multiple personalities and stuff. So, alternating personalities, like I said, formerly multiple personality disorder. Each personality controls a person's behavior at different times. There can be one person at a time, but there's varying people. Now, each personality, it's not just like, oh, all of a sudden now I'm talking to you and I say I'm Miss So-and-so, right? Like everything about me would change. My voice, my register, my mannerisms, my whole like physical countenance, like things that you don't even think to change. Like if I was trying to act like someone else, I still couldn't change because it's so like ingrained in me, Miss Parnell, as the person I am. I would have to, actors and actresses have to get really, really good to change these things. And then some don't. Some always look like the same person in every film they're playing, even though they're a different character. It's like that. So that's how you know they're not acting, is like you couldn't change these things or pinpoint these things if you want. So I'm gonna put these videos of this guy with it. He was a famous football player, and I wasn't really familiar with him. You may be if you're a sports guy, but from like the 1990s or something, Herschel Walker, and he supposedly has it, claims to have it. And so his ex-wife talks about it. And so it is interesting because she has no reason to defend him, especially after with his multiple personalities, all the things he did to her and abused her and stuff. I mean, she'll talk about in the video. But she defends him and he talks about it, and even his therapist talks. And so Herschel Walker is like a young African American guy with like short hair, but his therapist says when he would change personalities, he had the personality of a white guy. And so you're sitting there like, how do you know? How do you know? And he would talk about how he would run his fingers. See, I could do it right now if I wasn't wearing a hat. Run his fingers through his hair the way a white person would, because their fingers would be able to run through their hair, but like Herschel Walker's, you couldn't. So it's just like things like that, like really odd, to kind of show that, yeah, maybe it is different personalities going on. Sometimes there's a good one, sometimes there's a mean one, a bad one, an aggressive one. They're usually unaware of others. And so I'll put the video on there for you down here. Personality disorders are up next. There's 3: borderline, narcissistic, and antisocial. So let's write down what a personality disorder is. It's exactly like it sounds. It's a disorder, and it's your personality. So move this. Inflexible and enduring behavior patterns. That impair social functioning. Let's see, and I'll have to put some videos in that. So we're going to go through each one. Up first is borderline personality. This is what you think of when you think of crazy. You had to sum up everything you know about crazy, this unit, this class, just in life. When you call someone crazy, you're probably talking about someone with this. Okay? I want you to look at it and tell me what you think. So before you write it down, let's look at it. A person has unstable emotions. They can be high, low, all over the place, way too angry, way too scared, way too crying, way too happy. Maybe it's inappropriate. Maybe it's at the wrong time. It's just all over the place. Distorted sense of reality. So like they think like they're this or someone else is that or someone's out to get them or that you're always lying to them or they just think they're the best or it's just like, what? Like, are you seeing things for real? And they're manipulative. So they like manipulate other people, maybe lie and deceive. You got deceptive. So that's like lying, deceiving people, kind of doing stuff bad, that they go hand in hand, manipulation and deception. And they'll sabotage things. They'll sabotage other people, their lives, their relationships, their businesses. They'll go in, if they're someone older and their kids get married, they'll go and try and sabotage their kids' marriage or something, or relationships. It's really wild. With these personality disorders, you're not really going to be able to fix it. You're going to see in the next unit with therapy and treatment, there's not much treatment options for this. Like with schizophrenics and stuff like that, like you can, even with dissociative disorders, you can try and like work through it. If you can get a schizophrenic to take their medicine, they're way better off. But like personality, there's nothing, because that's their personality. Like you can't change it. They want to be like that. You know what I'm saying? That's who they are. And this person is really hard to treat them because like of the deception. They'll sit in the therapist's office, and yes, ma'am, and this and that, and you're right. And then they'll go out and get on the phone and lie about it, or get on the phone and tell someone the therapist hates me and they're out to get me, and all these things that aren't true. Like they're always trying to sabotage stuff, and they're always deceptive and manipulate. So, if someone you knew was suffering from this, I don't want to say it's like a bad prognosis or diagnosis, but I mean, what are you going to do? So a lot of times these people don't have relationships with other people because people get sick of it and they can't deal with this, and it's too much stress in their life, and they just have to cut the person out. They just have to, save themselves and get this person out of their life, even if that means that is their sister, their friend, their mom, their dad, stuff like that. So we gotta write this down: borderline personality. So borderline personality disorder. So borderline personality disorder, a personality disorder in which a person has unstable emotions, a distorted sense of reality. So they're not like out of reality like a schizophrenic is, but they're just like seeing it only for their way, or so. You know what I'm saying? It's not, they're not getting the whole big picture. distorts sense of reality, and is manipulative. So I'm done. You don't hear these. Deceptive and sabotages relationships. All right, so that's borderline. If I didn't leave you enough time, you could pause and go back. Narcissistic. So you've probably heard of narcissism before. If someone is narcissistic, they're full of themselves. They love themselves, that type things. But narcissistic personality disorder, I mean, you may know people like that, but it's not a disorder. It doesn't impede their life. They're not dysfunctional, maladaptive. Remember all those things we were talking about at the beginning of the unit. Someone who it was that bad, they would have this. So it comes from like, I think, I might be saying this wrong. I don't want to say it wrong. I think it's Greek. Fable, I don't know. There was this like nymph fairy named Narcissus, and he sat on the edge of a lake or a pond, and he loved looking at himself in the water and the reflection because he thought he was so beautiful. And it got to where he fell in and drowned. And it's basically like he drowned in his own self-love and his own vanity and stuff like that. So that's where the word comes from. You can fact check me and see if I'm wrong. Greek fairy tale, something like that. But that's where it comes from because this person is so in love with themselves, they cannot get outside of their frame of reference, their mind. They're just, and it will end up being their doom, pretty much. It's not just someone, we all know people full of themselves. We all know people who are narcissistic to a degree, but hopefully we don't really encounter a lot of people with it as a personality disorder, as a psychological disorder. All right, so we can write this one down. Narcissistic personality disorder. If you're like me, you gotta look up on how to spell that word. This is the second of 3 personality disorders. And it is a personality disorder in which a person is self-focused and self-inflating. So self-focused means only focusing on yourself, and inflating, like they build themselves up. They really love themselves. While they're doing this other stuff too, while exaggerating their own importance, really blowing up the importance and love of them. So exaggerating their importance, requiring constant attention, and lacking empathy for others. So they can't empathize, not even just sympathize, just empathize, just see things from another person's point of view or from their shoes. They literally don't have the ability to do that. It's really hard to treat also this because they're not going to be able to see it from the psychologist or the other person they're talking to's perspective. So someone in life tries to tell them like how much this is impeding their relationship. Like they can't get outside of their own box. See what I'm saying? Like it's kind of a catch-22. They can't get outside of their own world to see it from the other person's perspective, to see how their behavior is negatively impacting them, or what the therapist or counselor is trying to tell them about how this is, transpiring and what's going on and how you need to fix it, why you need to fix it. Like they can't see that because they're so self-absorbed. They can't even see it from another person's point of view, and you need another person's point of view to treat you. So it's kind of the downside with this one. And then you got antisocial personality. So antisocial personality disorder. So before you write this down, I want you to look at the definition. This is your psychopath, sociopath. I think I even wrote that down right there. Psychopath, sociopath. Okay? So this person, they're not going to feel any remorse. All right? So look up here. They exhibit a lack of conscience. They do not have a conscience. How do you fix that? You cannot give someone a pill and give them a conscience. You can't speak to someone and convince them that they need a conscience. If they don't have a conscience, like, I don't know what you do. It's like their brain's wired wrong, right? Like, what do you can't even fix that. And it's scary because a conscience is what keeps us from doing like terrible, horrible things. So they don't have a conscience. So they know like people don't do this. It's wrong. It's bad. But whereas if you or I did something bad, did something wrong, we would feel so, it would like eat us up. Even if we didn't tell anybody about it. You know, like when you're alone in your head, laying in bed at night, it would just be like, you know, and the guilt and the shame and stuff. This person, no, like they don't feel bad about it. So they have a lack of conscience. It doesn't matter if they like the person or if it's a stranger. And so these are going to be your serial killers, rapists, people who rob, steal just over and over and over and over and over, and they never feel bad about it, which is why they never stop. And they fear very little. They can be very impulsive. So we sometimes have called people antisocial, like, oh, that kid over there in the corner, he's antisocial because he doesn't talk. It's like anti means not, social, talkative, socializing. We're like, he's not socializing. He's antisocial. You can still say that. That's totally fine, but it's not what we're talking about here. I'm not talking about a quiet person here. This person can be very outgoing, actually. A lot of times they really are. They're con artists. They trick people. If you've seen one of the most famous serial killers, all this stuff is escaping me while I'm filming it. It's the one that Zac Efron did, a movie on Netflix. What was his movie? Movie, Netflix. Ted Bundy. Kind of interesting, like movie on Netflix and stuff, but serial killers like that, he was actually very outgoing. He was well liked. He was loved. He was popular, and a lot of people with this are. So they're not antisocial in the way you think, like quiet or weird or aloof. They're not. They're antisocial and like they're anti-society, as in they harm people and stuff like that. All right, so let's write this one down. Antisocial. Personality disorder in which? Do you like how these all start the same way? So personality disorder in which a person exhibits a lack of conscience, I always forget how to spell conscience because it's not spelled like you say it. It's like conscience, but you don't say conscience. For wrongdoing, whatever that wrongdoing is, murder, rape, stealing, whatever, for wrongdoing, even toward friends and family. They do not care because they don't have a conscience. And maybe you would have more of a conscience and you would really not hurt your friends or family, but then a stranger's like, nah, they don't even have that kind of like scale. It doesn't matter. Nobody ever hurt a stranger. I just say that. Even toward friends and family members. And they may be aggressive and ruthless, or they're probably aggressive and ruthless when they're doing the acts, but like when they're not, they're like clever con artists that people like. So you can put that last part if you want. I'm not. Like I said, people who do this do not feel remorse. They have a low emotional intelligence. A lot of times they're impulsive and fear very little. Most criminals are actually not antisocial. Most people in prison are not antisocial because most people who do something bad have a reason, whether it be revenge, anger, jealousy, under the influence of drugs and not knowing what they're doing. Like they have a reason. And a lot of times, like if it's revenge or something, they might not feel bad. They might be like, they got what they deserve. But if it wasn't, if it was a crime of passion or something they did in a different state of consciousness and they come to find out like, oh, I did that. Like, I feel so bad. I stole from that person or I hurt them. So most criminals are not antisocial. It's thankfully very few people are because you really have to worry about this because they don't have a conscience and you cannot fix it. And it's so bad and it's so scary. And so I'll try and get some videos of that. I know there's a Law and Order episode that's really good on that we might have to watch when we get back if I can't figure out how to send it to you. And then the last section is eating disorders. See, I told you it was 3 kind of random things thrown together: dissociative, personality, and eating disorders. So the 3 eating disorders we're going to talk about: anorexia, bulimia, and binge eating. You've probably heard of the first 2. The third one's kind of a newer spinoff in the new DSM with bulimia. So our bodies are naturally predisposed to maintain a steady weight. So we have this like weight range. It's not usually an exact number, but on average, you stay within this range. And you really have to work to get above or below this range. You have to really change your lifestyle for the worse and get above it, or for the better and get way below it. But sometimes these have nothing really to do with eating. It's all psychological and it's in the mind, pretty much, is what causes these. So the first one is anorexia. The technical name is anorexia nervosa. So let's write that down. So anorexia is an eating disorder in which a person, or I should say it like I said the others, an eating disorder in which, I'll start the same. You hear this crazy movie? In which a person maintains a starvation diet despite already being significantly underweight. So despite being significantly underweight, sometimes it can be accompanied with excessive exercise. A lot of times that goes with bulimia. So they're going to lose about 15% at least. A lot of times it's more. 15% of their body weight. And that would be kind of where anorexia falls. And so I'll get you a video on that. So they are very skinny, but it's like they don't believe it. Because again, it's a mind thing and it's a control thing. And a lot of times maybe other things are going on in their life, trauma, stress, and they can't control that, but they can control how much they eat. Like that's the one thing they control, how much food they put in their body, and thus they can control how their body looks. And so a lot of times this comes from more of a mind place than anywhere. Bulimia is up next, also called bulimia nervosa. Looks like a long definition. Sorry. So an eating disorder in which, we're almost done. I think this is the last slide. I think. A person's binge eating, and they're usually binge eating high calorie food, like bad for you food. They're not like binge eating celery, like it's like cheeseburgers or something. It's followed by, you don't have to put parentheses if you don't want. It's followed by inappropriate weight loss, promoting behavior, weight loss promoting behavior, such as vomiting, laxative use, fasting, or excessive exercise. Excessive exercise can go with both anorexics and bulimics. So bulimics don't tend to lose a lot of weight. A lot of times actually maintain because they put so much bad stuff in them and get it out. This is anorexia out of the three is definitely the most deadly and the most harmful to your body. I mean, starving your body. Your body needs nutrients. Like at a certain point, after a certain amount of time, organs, part of your body will shut down. Really, it won't get the nutrients to keep your organs running. They'll shut down and it can be deadly. This one is also has that component because getting your body is not made to just like stuff it full and then get it out really quickly. And your body's not made to like throw up every day or to have like laxative use and like really have stomach problems, tear your stomach up, go to the bathroom like that every day. Or where you eat so much and then you go an extended period of time and you don't eat, like with a fasting. It's not made for that. So when you do that to your body, back and forth over time, you can wear your body out too. And this can also cause lots of medical issues and could even cause death. People don't think it can, but it can because you're not using the organs in your body the right way. You're not having to process food and stuff the right way. So a person binge, you've heard of binge and purge. Binge is get it all in too much. Like you binge watch Netflix, you watch too much. So binge eats too much and then purge, you find a way to get it out. Now, the other thing, the binge eating disorder is similar, but there's no purging. There's no step two. There's no getting it out, like no laxative use, vomiting, fasting, exercise. It's just like guilt and feeling bad about yourself. So binge eating disorder is, let's see. So let's write it down. Binge eating disorder significant binge eating episodes followed by, so it's going to be followed by like those bad feelings, but it's not going to be followed by like the behaviors. So followed by having like distress, disgust, or guilt. but without the behaviors. You can kind of put that in parentheses if you want, but without the behaviors of bulimia. And just see. Yeah, that's it. So I'll leave it up a second. You need to finish writing those down. I'll have some videos for you and give yourself a pat on the back. You've done it. You've taken all the notes on psychological disorders from home. Woo, woo. Hopefully it wasn't too bad. Hopefully the videos really helped. Let me know on Remind or email or something. Give me feedback on it so I know what to do, what not to do, what helps, what doesn't help, works, doesn't work. And I'll do these for therapy, and then however long we're out, the next unit if need be, reviews for the entire class, whatever we need. So hopefully it's helping. Catch you guys next time. See ya.